There's quite a few things that you need to consider before approaching clients via email or DMs. I have been writing cold emails for almost 3 years because before I started being a UGC creator, I actually was a web design freelancer. So I've had my online business for roughly 3 years now, and I've written thousands and thousands of cold emails to potential clients. So I might know a thing or two. So it's either you invest a little bit of money and you get quicker results, or you do things a bit slower and manually. So today I will talk about my own experience, my learnings, tips I can give you, and also tools that I have used in the past that work really well for me. First of all, don't send an email with a Gmail account, because usually that's perceived as a bit more unprofessional than having your own domain name in your email. Your domain is quite inexpensive for around $15 a year. Once you have a domain, this domain needs to warm up in case you want to send out a bunch of emails, and that is something I highly suggest. If you want to get clients faster, the logical step is to send out more emails. Personally, the online tools that I used and that I think are really good are Mailchimp. I heard of an alternative tool that's a bit cheaper called Woodpecker. This is not a promotion whatsoever. I don't get paid to suggest those tools to you. It's just really from my own experience. And I recently found out about a tool that's a bit cheaper. My friend actually suggested it to me, which is called Mailchimp. I have been using it for my last campaign, and I personally really like it. It's basically a sending automation tool, so you can kind of create campaigns, put all the emails into an Excel sheet, and then it basically sends out an email template to all the potential clients. If you want to know more about these online tools or have any other questions, feel free to send me an email. So before you can use those tools, of course, you need email lists. So how do you actually get email lists? Again, there's a few options. So the first one, do it manually for free. So you use an online platform such as LinkedIn, search for brands, search for the decision makers. That is one super important thing. Look for decision makers such as CEOs, founders, co-founders, marketing manager, people that actually decide, do we hire a UGC creator or not? If you just use generic emails like info ad or PR ad or sales ad, the chances are so much lower that they even forward the email to the decision maker. So always make sure to go straight to the decision maker. There's so-called scraping tools. So they basically either scan websites or scan people on LinkedIn and then provide you with their email address. And of course, once you have the email address, you can then send your emails manually or send it to your automation tool. On a side note, Instagram DMs are of course probably the easiest to do it because you don't need an email address, you don't need to look anything up. But I personally did not have a lot of success with it. And I don't think especially big brands either respond to you or forward your message. Of course, here and there it could work, but in the majority of cases, it hasn't worked for me personally. Another way that costs a little bit more to get email lists is to hire someone on Fiverr to provide your email list. Usually they can provide you with legit email addresses. Now that one thing you need to keep in mind is once you have an email list like that, is to run it through an email verification tool online. So you know that 100% of the emails are legit, because otherwise a lot of times the emails just don't get delivered and then you kind of waste your money. So now that we have our emails, we have our automation tools, the one thing that is missing, of course, is the email content, the subject lines, the first lines, the signature, etc. Let's dive into it. Tip number 1, make it personalized. Do not send a generic email. Very important. People don't read it. They get hundreds of emails a day, especially if it's a big brand. So make it as unique and personal as you can. If you scroll down on the Notion page, I also give a few templates that you can use as inspiration. One thing that's always good is a compliment. You can compliment them on an award they may have received lately or a new product they launched. Maybe a product that you already use anyway from that brand, and just tell them how much you love it. Make the first line count. It's your first impression. You only have one. At the end of the video, I also give you an extra hack with which I get a deal almost every single time I send out an email. After you wrote that first line, present why you are of value to them. And don't make it too much about yourself. Focus on the goals of your potential clients and the brand. If you have results such as an ROI you got for a brand, always put those in. The emails that work better for me are short, crisp, straight to the point. Often my emails are no longer than 5 lines. One thing I would also leave out is prices. And this is where people kind of have 50 opinions. Some leave it in, some leave it out. I personally don't use them because I prefer to talk to the client first. Also regarding the subject lines, of course, they're really important because if they're not interesting enough, then people won't even click on your email. And of course, I also put a few subject lines for you down below. Then before we get to the signature, always include a call to action. Usually that's a discovery call for me, so I would send them to my Calendly link, or I would send them to my portfolio, and I always write down the domain. I don't include the whole link of my website because that's considered as a link again, and we don't want that in emails. I was quickly talking about A/B testing, and basically that's where you test, let's say, subject lines, for example. So you send 50 emails with one subject line and 50 emails with another subject line, and then you kind of can see on the opening rate which one performs better. You can also do that with call to actions, content of email. A huge thing people don't really talk about is sending follow-up emails. This is where my conversion rate is the highest. And with follow-up emails, sending an email a few days or a week after your initial email. That is so useful because maybe sometimes people read an email and they're super busy, they don't have the time to reply, and they forget about it. You want to remind them of your first email. They can be short and crisp again. So for example, hey, I was sending an email last week. Did you have a chance to already have a look at it? Now, the absolute number one hack that will skyrocket your conversions, and that is add an intro video to each email. Now you might think, oh my God, how am I going to send 50 intro videos to each of the contacts? I don't do it to every single one, of course. That would take ages. I send it to brands that I really want to work with, or bigger brands that have a higher budget. And that is almost a guaranteed conversion. To make your job a little bit easier, I would only personalize the beginning and leave kind of the rest of the video always the same. So the intro video could look like this. You could say something like, hey Jessica, I've been using your hydrating lotion for over 2 years now. I'm a huge fan. I've never had softer skin. And then something like, I would love to contribute to your growth. I have been a UGC creator for this and this many years. I have had those results. Do you have time for a quick chat this week? Doesn't need to be long. Maybe pop in a few examples of your work, and that's really it. So that is it. That was my tips, my experience with cold emails. I hope I could help you. And if you have any other questions, please just send me an email.